The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers and clattered onto the concrete floor of my garage. 3 in the morning, and I was still trying to coax life back into my 15-year-old Ford pickup. WD-40 and sarcasm fix everything except a rotting marriage, I thought, wiping my hands on an already filthy rag. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. My phone buzzed against the workbench. A text from Marta. Honey, working late again. Don't wait up. So many tasks piling up at the agency. I stared at the screen, feeling that familiar knot in my stomach. My wife had been pulling these late nights for weeks now. The advertising agency where she worked as a senior account manager had apparently become the most demanding workplace in all of Pittsburgh. But instead of my usual bitter acceptance, something different stirred in me tonight. Maybe it was the loneliness, or maybe it was the memory of how she used to light up when I surprised her during our early years together. Before the mortgage, before the kids grew up and moved away, before we became strangers sharing a house. You know what, Ethan? I said aloud to the empty garage. Let's be the husband she married. I cleaned up quickly, grabbed my jacket, and headed to the 24-hour grocery store on 5th Street. The fluorescent lights made everything look sickly, but I found what I needed, a bouquet of yellow roses, her favorites, and a box of those expensive Belgian chocolates she always eyed but never bought for herself. The drive to downtown Pittsburgh felt different tonight. Instead of dreading another evening alone, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Excitement. I was going to surprise my wife, show her that her husband of 18 years still cared enough to drive across town at 3:30 in the morning just to make her smile. The Meridian Creative Agency occupied the 14th floor of a gleaming glass tower that looked like it belonged in New York rather than our Rust Belt city. I'd only been there a handful of times, usually for holiday parties, where I felt completely out of place among the sleek, creative types in their designer clothes. The night security guard, a heavy-set man named Pete whom I'd met before, looked surprised to see me. "Little late for a visit, isn't it, Ethan?" he asked, but his tone was friendly. "Thought I'd surprise Marta," I said, holding up the flowers and chocolates. "She's been working so hard lately." Pete's expression shifted slightly, something I couldn't quite read. "Oh, yeah, she's been here a lot." "Which floor again?" 14, but maybe you should call first." "It's a surprise," I interrupted, already heading for the elevator. The 14th floor was dimly lit, with only a few offices showing light. I knew Marta's office was toward the back, near the corner where the senior staff worked. My footsteps were muffled by the plush carpet as I made my way down the hall, yellow roses in one hand, chocolates in the other. I could hear voices coming from the direction of her office. Marta's laugh, light and musical in a way I hadn't heard in months. My heart lifted. Maybe this surprise would remind us both of what we used to be. But as I got closer, I heard another voice, male, deep, intimate, Derek Castellano, her boss. I slowed my steps, suddenly feeling like an intruder. But they were just working, right? Late-night strategy session. Nothing unusual about that. I reached the doorway of Marta's office and stopped dead. My wife was pressed against her desk, Derek's hands tangled in her dark hair, their mouths locked together in a kiss that was anything but professional. Her blouse was partially unbuttoned, his tie loosened and hanging askew. The flowers and chocolates hit the floor with a soft thud. They broke apart, Marta's eyes going wide with shock and something that might have been guilt. Derek, on the other hand, had the audacity to smirk. "Ethan!" Marta gasped, frantically buttoning her blouse. How did you—" "I brought you flowers," I said quietly, my voice sounding strange and distant even to my own ears. "And chocolates, because my wife was working so hard." Derek straightened his tie with infuriating calm. This is awkward. Is it? I looked at him. Really looked at him. Derek Castellano, 52 years old, silver at his temples, wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. I was thinking it was more educational. Ethan, please, Marta said, stepping toward me. This isn't what it looks like. I laughed, a short, bitter sound. Really? Because it looks like my wife was about to have sex with her boss on her desk. But hey, maybe that's just my blue-collar brain misinterpreting sophisticated advertising techniques. You need to leave, Derek said, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to being obeyed. Do I? I pulled out my phone, quickly snapping several photos before either of them could react. Actually, I think I'm exactly where I need to be. Delete those! Marta lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. Why? Afraid they might end up in the wrong hands? Like maybe Derek's wife? What's her name again? Sandra? Derek's smirk disappeared. You son of a... Careful, I said, pocketing my phone. We wouldn't want to add threats to adultery, would we? I looked down at the scattered flowers and smashed chocolates on the carpet. Yellow rose petals mixed with Belgian chocolate like some twisted metaphor for my marriage. 18 years, I said, more to myself than to them. 18 years, and this is what it comes to. Ethan, if you would just listen, Marta started. Oh, I'm listening. I'm listening to the sound of my marriage dying. It's quieter than I expected. I turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. By the way, Derek, you might want to check the security cameras. I'm sure the agency's board of directors would find this footage fascinating. As I walked away, I heard Marta calling my name, but I didn't turn back. The elevator seemed to take forever, and when the doors finally closed, I caught a glimpse of myself in the polished steel. I looked like exactly what I was, a fool who'd believed in something that died long before tonight. Pete the security guard avoided eye contact as I walked past his desk. Now I understood that look he'd given me earlier. He'd known. Maybe everyone knew except the husband. The drive home was a blur of empty streets and traffic lights that seemed to mock me with their cheerful colors. Our house, Marta's and mine, sat dark and quiet in the suburban neighborhood where we'd raised our kids, where we'd planned to grow old together. I sat in the driveway for a long time, engine ticking as it cooled, thinking about yellow roses and Belgian chocolates scattered across an office floor. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw you leaving the Meridian building. Interesting timing. We should talk. I stared at the anonymous text until the screen went dark, then stared at my own reflection in the black glass. Who the hell was watching me? And why? The house felt like a museum when I finally went inside, full of artifacts from a life that apparently hadn't been real for months, maybe years. Wedding photos on the mantel, vacation pictures on the refrigerator, Marta's coffee cup still sitting in the sink from this morning when she'd kissed my cheek and said she loved me. I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat at the kitchen table, phone in hand. Part of me wanted to call her, demand explanations, fight for what we'd built together. The other part wanted to send those photos to Derek's wife and watch their perfect little world burn. Instead, I did nothing. Just sat there drinking bourbon and wondering how long I'd been living a lie. My phone rang at 6:15 a.m. Marta. Ethan, we need to talk. Do we? I was surprised by how calm I sounded. I thought the conversation was pretty clear last night. That's not... What you saw wasn't the whole story. Really? Which part did I miss? The part where you promised to love and honor me? Or the part where you decided Derek's tongue belonged in your mouth? Silence. Then, I'm coming home. Don't bother. I'm not going anywhere. She hung up. 20 minutes later, I heard her car in the driveway. She came through the front door looking like she hadn't slept, her usually perfect hair disheveled, makeup smeared. Ethan, let me guess, I said, not looking up from my coffee. It just happened. You never meant for it to go this far. You still love me, but you're not in love with me. Derek understands you in ways I never could. Am I close? She sat down across from me, and for a moment she looked like the woman I'd married. Vulnerable, uncertain, human. It started 3 months ago, she said quietly. Which part? The fucking or the lying? She flinched. Don't be crude. Crude? Lady, I caught you half naked with another man. I think we're past worrying about my language. We were working late on the Morrison account. Derek was going through a rough patch with Sandra. He needed someone to talk to. And you volunteered your mouth for consolation? It wasn't like that. Her voice cracked. God, Ethan, when did you become so cruel? Probably around the time my wife started screwing her boss. Funny how betrayal affects people differently. She was crying now, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Once upon a time, those tears would have undone me completely. Now they just seemed like another manipulation. I never wanted you to find out this way, she whispered. How did you want me to find out? Greeting card? Skywriting? Maybe a nice PowerPoint presentation? I wanted to end it. I was going to end it. When? Before or after you let him bend you over your desk? She stood up abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't. You can go back to Derek's place. I'm sure he's got room for you. This is my house too. Is it? Because it seems like you've been living somewhere else for months. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. Check your email. You'll want to see this. I opened my laptop right there at the kitchen table, Marta watching nervously. The email contained a video file. Security footage from the Meridian building, time-stamped from 2 weeks ago. Marta and Derek in the parking garage, her pressed against his car, his hands all over her. Jesus Christ, I breathed. What is it? Marta leaned over to look, then went white. Oh God. 2 weeks ago, Marta. You've been lying to my face for 2 weeks since this video was taken. How many other times? She sank back into her chair. Ethan, How many other times? My voice was getting louder. I don't know, okay? It happened. Bullshit. Affairs don't just happen. You made choices. Every time you kissed him, every time you lied to me about working late, every time you came home and pretended to be my wife, those were choices. Another email arrived. This one contained photos. Marta and Derek at a restaurant across town holding hands. Marta and Derek entering a hotel. The timestamps went back 6 months. 6 months, I said, showing her the screen. You've been cheating on me for 6 months. She was sobbing now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her. Just a cold, calculating anger that was new to me. Who's sending these? She asked through her tears. Does it matter? Someone's been watching you two idiots document your affair like teenagers. My phone rang. Derek. I answered on speaker. Morning, Derek. How's married life treating you? We need to meet, he said, his voice tight. All 3 of us. The situation needs to be handled carefully. Handled? Like a PR crisis? Like adults, Ethan. There are reputations at stake here. I laughed, genuinely laughed. Reputations? Derek, I'm a mechanic who owns a garage that's barely breaking even. What reputation do I have to lose? Marta's career can go to hell along with Marta. You want to meet? Fine, but it'll be on my terms. I hung up and looked at my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, sitting there in ruins. Pack a bag, I said. Ethan, please. Pack a bag and get out. Go to Derek's, go to your sister's, go to hell for all I care. But don't sleep in my house tonight. You can't throw me out. I have rights. And I have photos and videos, and a very good lawyer who specializes in adultery cases. Want to test those rights in court? She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Maybe she was. The man she'd married had been soft, accommodating, eager to please. That man died in an office building at 3:30 this morning. "What happened to you?" she whispered. I grew a spine. Apparently, it was long overdue. After she left, I sat in the sudden quiet of my house and opened my laptop again. Time to do some research on Derek Castellano. If someone was watching them, they might be watching me too. And if this was going to be a war, I needed to know my enemy. What I found was interesting. Derek wasn't just cheating on his wife, he was cheating on his business partners too. The Meridian Agency was in financial trouble, and Derek had been moving money around in ways that looked questionable at best. My phone buzzed again. The unknown number. "Enjoying the show? There's more where that came from. Meet me at Murphy's Bar on Carson Street tonight. 8 p.m. Come alone." I stared at the message for a long time. Someone was pulling strings here, orchestrating this whole thing. But why? And what did they want from me? Only one way to find out. Murphy's Bar was exactly the kind of place you'd expect to find in Pittsburgh's South Side. Dim lighting, sticky floors, and the lingering smell of cigarettes from back when you could still smoke indoors. I arrived at 8 sharp, scanning the sparse crowd for anyone who looked like they might be my mysterious correspondent. "Ethan Matthews?" I turned to see a woman in her early 40s, attractive in a sharp-edged way, with auburn hair and eyes that missed nothing. She was sitting alone in a corner booth, a half-empty martini in front of her. "You know me. I don't know you." "Angela Winters," she said, extending a manicured hand. "I used to work at Meridian. Used to be Marta's best friend, actually." I slid into the booth across from her, my mind racing. "Used to be?" "Until your wife helped Derek fire me 2 years ago." Her smile was razor sharp. "Funny how things come full circle. You're the one who's been sending me the photos. Among other things. Drink?" I signaled the bartender for a beer. "What do you want, Angela?" "Justice, revenge, call it whatever makes you feel better." She leaned back, studying me. "You know, Marta used to talk about you all the time. Said you were too soft, too trusting. Said you'd never fight back even if she cheated on you." The words hit like a physical blow. "She said that?" "Oh yes, many times. Usually when she was complaining about how boring her marriage was." Angela sipped her martini. "She was wrong about the fighting back part, though. You've got more steel in you than she gave you credit for." "Why are you doing this?" "Because Derek Castellano destroyed my career, and your wife helped him do it. I had worked my way up from nothing, secretary to account coordinator to senior manager, 15 years of my life. Then I made the mistake of questioning some of Derek's financial decisions." "What kind of decisions?" "The kind that involve moving client money into personal accounts. The kind that could land someone in federal prison." She pulled out a tablet and showed me a series of financial documents. "Derek's been embezzling from the agency for 3 years. When I threatened to report him, he fabricated evidence that I was the one stealing." I studied the documents. Even with my limited understanding of corporate finance, the irregularities were obvious. "Why didn't you take this to the authorities?" "With what proof?" "Derek made sure all the evidence pointed to me. But I've been building a new case ever since. Watching, waiting, documenting everything. Including his affair with my wife. That was a bonus. I knew Derek was a predator. He'd tried it with me years ago. When Marta started working late, I put 2 and 2 together." The bartender brought my beer. I took a long pull, trying to process everything. "So you've been watching them for months?" 6 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. I have video evidence of 47 separate encounters, hotel receipts, restaurant bills charged to company accounts, text messages." She smiled coldly. "I have enough evidence to destroy both their careers and send Derek to prison. What do you want from me?" "Partnership. Derek hurt both of us. Marta betrayed both of us. We can hurt them back, but it'll be more effective if we work together." I stared into my beer, thinking about Marta's tears this morning, her claims that she wanted to end it. "She's still my wife." "Is she?" Because from where I sit, she stopped being your wife the moment she decided Derek's dick was more interesting than your marriage. The crude words stung because they were true. What did you have in mind? Angela leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. Total destruction. Derek loses his job, his marriage, and his freedom. Marta loses her career and her reputation. Both of them become pariahs in this industry. And what do I get out of it? Revenge. And half of Derek's hidden assets when the divorce settlement comes through. He's got about $2 million stashed in offshore accounts. $2 million. Enough to rebuild my garage, maybe buy a house somewhere far from all this. Enough to start over. How do I know you're not lying about the money? She showed me more documents on her tablet. Bank statements, wire transfers, account balances. Derek's been very careful, but not careful enough. I've been tracking his financial movements for 2 years. And you want to give me half of it? I want Derek to pay for what he did to me. The money's just a bonus. She finished her martini. Besides, you're going to earn it. This won't be easy, and it won't be clean. I thought about coming home to an empty house every night, about the pity in my neighbor's eyes when word got out about the affair, about starting over at 45 with nothing but a failing garage and a broken heart. What's the first step? Angela's smile was predatory. We turned Derek's own people against him. I still have friends at Meridian, people who never believed I was guilty. They've been waiting for a chance to bring Derek down. She pulled out a USB drive. This contains copies of all the evidence I've gathered. Financial records, photos, videos, everything. Tomorrow, you're going to pay a visit to Meridian's board of directors. They won't see me. I'm nobody. They will when you tell them you have evidence of embezzlement and sexual harassment. They will when you mention that you're considering going to the FBI. I pocketed the USB drive. What about Marta? What about her? She made her choice. Now she gets to live with the consequences. She'll be destroyed too. Good. She helped Derek frame me. She chose to have an affair instead of working on her marriage. She lied to you for 6 months. Angela's voice was ice cold. She deserves everything that's coming to her. I finished my beer, mind racing with possibilities. For the first time since catching them together, I felt something other than pain and humiliation. I felt powerful. When do we start? We already have. By now, Derek's wife Sandra has received a very interesting package of photos. She should be confronting him right about now. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A text from Marta. Derek's wife knows. She's filing for divorce. What did you do? I showed the message to Angela, who laughed. Perfect timing. Derek's going to be desperate now. Desperate people make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The kind that land them in federal prison. She stood up, leaving money on the table. Meet me tomorrow at 10 a.m., corner of 5th and Liberty. Wear a suit. We're going to pay some very important people a visit. After she left, I sat alone in the bar, turning the USB drive over in my hands. 24 hours ago, I'd been a faithful husband planning a surprise for his wife. Now I was plotting the destruction of 2 people I'd once cared about. The strange thing was, I felt more alive than I had in years. My phone rang. Marta again. Ethan, we need to talk. Derek's in trouble. Real trouble. Is he? That's too bad. This isn't a game. His wife is threatening to take everything. The agency might fire him. Our careers are over. Your careers. I'm just a mechanic, remember? I'll be fine. Please, you have to help us. We can work this out. I laughed. Help you? Marta, 12 hours ago you were planning to let Derek fuck you on your desk. Now you want my help? I made a mistake. You made a choice. Now live with it. I hung up and ordered another beer. Tomorrow, Angela and I would start phase 2 of what was shaping up to be the most satisfying project of my life. I hadn't worn a suit in 3 years, not since my daughter's college graduation. The navy blue fabric felt foreign against my skin, as I stood outside the Meridian building at 10 a.m. sharp, USB drive burning a hole in my pocket. Angela appeared beside me like she'd materialized from thin air, dressed in a power suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. "Ready?" she asked. As ready as a guy can be to destroy his wife's life. Ex-wife. The papers will be filed by the end of the week. We rode the elevator to the 20th floor in silence. The Meridian Board of Directors occupied a suite of offices that screamed money and power. Mahogany paneling, Persian rugs, oil paintings of dead white men in expensive frames. The receptionist, a young man with perfectly styled hair and an expression of practiced boredom, looked us over dismissively. "Do you have an appointment?" "Tell Mr. Harrison that Angela Winters is here with evidence of embezzlement," Angela said calmly, "and tell him that if he doesn't see us in the next 5 minutes, our next stop is the FBI field office." The young man's boredom evaporated. He picked up his phone, spoke in hushed tones, then gestured toward a conference room. "Mr. Harrison will be right with you." James Harrison, chairman of the board, was exactly what central casting would order for a corporate executive: silver hair, expensive suit, handshake that could crack walnuts. He was followed by 2 other board members and a woman I recognized as the company's legal counsel. "Ms. Winters," Harrison said, his voice carefully neutral. "This is unexpected." "I'm sure it is. This is Ethan Matthews. His wife works for Derek Castellano." Harrison's eyes flicked to me, and I saw recognition there. He knew about the affair. Of course he did. "Gentlemen," I said, placing the USB drive on the conference table. "Ladies, we have a problem." For the next hour, Angela laid out Derek's crimes with the precision of a surgeon: the embezzlement, the falsified records, the money hidden in offshore accounts. The board members' faces grew progressively paler as she clicked through document after document. "This is—" Harrison paused, clearly struggling for words. "If this is accurate, we're looking at potential criminal charges." "It's accurate," Angela said. "I have bank records, wire transfers, forged signatures. Derek Castellano has been stealing from this company for 3 years." "And you've had this evidence for how long?" the legal counsel asked. 2 years. Ever since Derek framed me for his crimes and had me fired." The room went dead silent. I could practically hear the lawyers' minds calculating the potential lawsuits. "There's more," I said, pulling out my phone. "Derek's been having an affair with one of his employees, my wife, Marta Matthews. The affair has been going on for 6 months, during which time Derek has given her preferential treatment, unearned promotions, and access to confidential client information." I showed them the photos from last night, the hotel receipts, the restaurant bills. All of this was charged to company accounts. Essentially, Meridian Creative has been funding Derek's affair. Harrison looked like he was going to be sick. Jesus Christ. "There's a pattern here," Angela continued. "Derek preys on female employees. He uses his position of power to coerce sexual relationships, then rewards them with promotions and benefits. It's textbook sexual harassment." "How many others?" the legal counsel asked. "At least 3 that I can document. Probably more who were too afraid to come forward." I watched the board members exchange glances, seeing their mental calculations. Lawsuits, criminal charges, federal investigations, the company's reputation in ruins. "What do you want?" Harrison asked finally. "Derek Castellano fired immediately," Angela said. "Full investigation into his financial crimes. Cooperation with federal authorities when we file charges." "And Marta Matthews?" I felt a stab of something. Guilt, maybe, or the last echo of love. Then I thought about her in Derek's arms, about 6 months of lies, about her telling people I was too weak to fight back. Also fired. Immediately. "Mr. Matthews," Harrison said carefully, "you understand that your wife will likely face criminal charges as well? She was complicit in the embezzlement." "She's not my wife anymore," I said. And she made her choices. The legal counsel was already on her phone, presumably calling security. Harrison looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. "This meeting never happened," he said finally. "Officially, Derek Castellano is being terminated for performance issues. We'll conduct our own investigation into the financial irregularities." "That's not good enough," Angela said. "I want Derek prosecuted to the full extent of the law." "That's not up to us, but I assure you, we'll cooperate fully with any federal investigation." We left the building 20 minutes later, after watching security escort both Derek and Marta from the premises. I caught a glimpse of Marta through the lobby windows. She looked confused, frightened, clutching a cardboard box of personal items. "How do you feel?" Angela asked as we stood on the sidewalk. "Like I just burned down my entire life." "No, you just took it back." My phone was buzzing constantly, calls from Marta, texts, voicemails. I ignored them all. "What's next?" Angela smiled. "Now we go after Derek's hidden assets. I've already filed a civil suit claiming damages for wrongful termination. With the evidence we have, I'll win easily, and since Marta was complicit in the embezzlement, you'll have grounds to claim those assets in your divorce settlement." $2 million. Maybe more. Derek was very good at hiding money. We walked to a nearby coffee shop, where Angela laid out the next phase of the plan. Federal charges would take months to process. Derek would try to move his money, hide assets, maybe even flee the country. We had to move fast. "I need you to do something," she said, "something that might be difficult." "What?" "I need you to reconcile with Marta. Temporarily." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Are you insane? Derek's going to be desperate now. He'll try to use Marta to get to you, convince you to back off. If you're estranged from her, he can't use her as leverage." "I'm not getting back together with her." "You don't have to. Just make her think you might. Let her believe there's a chance for reconciliation. She'll tell Derek everything, his plans, his fears, where he's hiding money." "You want me to use my wife as a spy?" "I want you to use your wife's guilt and desperation to bring down the man who destroyed both our lives." I thought about it. The idea of pretending to forgive Marta, of letting her think we might have a future, felt like swallowing poison. But the alternative was letting Derek get away with everything. "How long?" "A few weeks, maybe a month, just until we locate all his assets and the federal charges are filed." My phone rang. Marta, again. "Answer it," Angela said. "Start the performance." I took a deep breath and answered. "Hello, Marta." "Ethan, thank God. They fired me. They fired Derek. I don't understand what's happening." "Where are you?" "At home. Our home. Please, can you come? We need to talk." I looked at Angela, who nodded encouragingly. "I'll be there in an hour." "Thank you. Ethan, I love you. I know I screwed up, but I love you." "We'll talk when I get there." I hung up and felt like I was going to vomit. "You can do this," Angela said. "Think about the $2 million. Think about Derek in a federal prison. Think about starting over with enough money to build whatever life you want. And if I can't pull it off, if she realizes I'm lying, then we go to plan B." "Which is?" Angela's smile was cold as winter. "You don't want to know." The house looked the same from the outside, but everything felt different as I pulled into the driveway. This wasn't my home anymore. It was a stage where I was about to give the performance of my life. Marta met me at the door, and I was shocked by how terrible she looked. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair unwashed, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday. She looked like a woman whose world had just collapsed, which, of course, it had. "Ethan," she said, and her voice broke on my name. I stepped inside, fighting every instinct that told me to turn around and leave. "We need to talk." I know we do." She led me to the living room, where we sat on opposite ends of the couch like strangers. "I don't understand what happened. One minute everything was normal, and the next minute security was escorting me out of the building. They said it was performance issues? That's what they told Derek too, but it doesn't make sense. Derek was their top performer. I had the Morrison account locked up. She looked at me with desperate eyes. Ethan, I think someone set us up. I had to admire her ability to play the victim. Even now, even after everything, she couldn't accept responsibility for her choices. Who would do that? I don't know. Maybe a competitor. Maybe someone inside the company who wanted Derek's job. She moved closer to me on the couch. But that doesn't matter now. What matters is us. Is there still an us? I want there to be. God, Ethan, I want there to be so badly. Tears started flowing again. I made a terrible mistake, the worst mistake of my life. But it's over. Derek and I, whatever we had, it's over. Just like that? It was never real. It was just, I don't know what it was. Midlife crisis, stupidity. But it wasn't real love. Not like what we have. I wanted to laugh at the irony. She was telling me their affair wasn't real while I sat here pretending my forgiveness might be real. We were both lying, but only one of us knew it. 6 months, Marta. You lied to me for 6 months. I know, and I hate myself for it. But I can make it up to you. We can go to counseling. We can start over. We can... What about Derek? Something flickered across her face. Fear, maybe, or guilt. What about him? Are you still in contact with him? He called me this morning, after we were fired. He's pretty upset. I bet he is. What did he say? Just that we needed to be careful, that someone was obviously targeting us, and we couldn't trust anyone. Perfect. Derek was already paranoid, already making mistakes. Did he say anything about money? About what he's going to do now? Why would you ask that? I shrugged, trying to look casual. Just wondering. Guy like Derek, used to making big money, suddenly unemployed. Must be scary. He said he had some savings, that he'd be fine. She reached out and touched my hand. But I don't care about Derek's money. I care about us, about our marriage. I looked down at her hand on mine, remembering when her touch used to mean everything to me. Now it felt like a stranger's hand. I need time to think. How much time? I don't know. This isn't something I can just get over, Marta. You cheated on me. You lied to me. You made me feel like a fool in my own marriage. I know. I know I did. But people make mistakes. People recover from this. We can recover from this. She was getting desperate, which was exactly what Angela had predicted. Desperate people said things they shouldn't say. Tell me about the affair, I said. All of it. Ethan, I don't think... If we're going to have any chance of fixing this, I need to know everything, how it started, how long it went on, what you did together. She flinched like I'd slapped her, but she started talking. And as she talked, I listened for the details that Angela would want to know. Where Derek liked to meet, what restaurants they went to, what hotels, whether he ever talked about money or business. He was going through problems with Sandra, she said. She was threatening divorce even before she found out about us. Something about money he'd hidden from her. Bingo. Hidden money? I don't know the details. Derek said Sandra was being paranoid, that she'd hired some private investigator to look into their finances. Marta wiped her eyes. He was stressed about it. Said she could ruin him if she wanted to. Ruin him how? I don't know. Business stuff. You know I don't understand all that financial nonsense. But Derek had been worried enough about it to confide in his mistress, which meant Sandra Castellano's divorce attorney was probably very good at finding hidden assets. We talked for another hour, with Marta gradually revealing more details about Derek's state of mind, his fears, his plans. He was planning to fight the termination, claiming wrongful dismissal. He was worried about Sandra's divorce attorney. He was considering moving money offshore until things settled down. All of it exactly what Angela needed to know. I should go, I said finally. Please don't. Please stay tonight. We don't have to. We can just be together, like we used to be. The pleading in her voice almost broke my resolve. This was still the woman I'd loved for 18 years, still the mother of my children. But she was also the woman who'd betrayed me, lied to me, made me into a joke. I'll call you tomorrow, I said. Promise? I promise. I left her there on the couch, crying again, and drove straight to Angela's apartment in Shadyside. She lived in a converted warehouse that had been turned into upscale lofts, all exposed brick and industrial fixtures. How did it go? She asked, pouring me a scotch without asking if I wanted one. I told her everything Marta had revealed about Derek's financial fears, his plans to move money, Sandra's private investigator. Perfect, Angela said. Derek's making exactly the mistakes I hoped he'd make. What's our next move? We accelerate the timeline. I'm going to contact Sandra's attorney tomorrow, offer to share our evidence in exchange for information about Derek's hidden accounts. And Marta? Keep playing the reconciliation angle. Derek's going to get more desperate as the walls close in. He'll lean on Marta for support, tell her things he shouldn't tell her. I finished my scotch and stood to leave. How long can I keep this up? Not much longer, maybe another week or two. And then? Then we spring the trap. Angela walked me to the door, her hand lingering on my arm. You're doing great, Ethan. I know this is hard, but you're stronger than you think. Sometimes I wonder if I'm becoming someone I don't recognize. You're becoming someone who fights back, someone who doesn't let people walk all over him. She smiled. Trust me, it's an improvement. Driving home to my empty house, I thought about the man I'd been a week ago, trusting, naive, willing to believe the best about people. That man was gone, probably forever. The question was, did I miss him, or was I better off without him? My phone buzzed with a text from Marta. Thank you for coming over. I love you. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back, I love you too. It was the first time in my life I'd told that particular lie. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my garage pretending to work on a transmission when Derek Castellano pulled up in his silver BMW. The same BMW I'd seen in Angela's surveillance photos, the one where he'd had his hands all over my wife. He got out of the car like he owned the world, despite having been fired and served with divorce papers. Some people's arrogance runs so deep that reality can't touch it. Ethan, he said, walking into my garage like he'd been invited. We need to talk. I wiped my hands on a rag and studied him. 2 weeks of unemployment hadn't been kind to Derek Castellano. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled. He looked like a man who wasn't sleeping well. Do we? About Marta, about this whole situation. What about it? He looked around the garage with obvious distaste, at the oil stains on the concrete, the rusty tools, the general blue-collar atmosphere that probably offended his refined sensibilities. You're a smart man, Ethan. Smarter than I gave you credit for. Thanks for the backhanded compliment. I know you're the one behind our terminations. You and whoever's been feeding you information about me. I kept my expression neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Cut the shit. Someone's been watching me, documenting my personal life, digging into my finances. Someone with a grudge and access to information they shouldn't have. Sounds like you've made some enemies. We both know who's behind this. Derek stepped closer, and I caught a whiff of expensive cologne mixed with desperation sweat. The question is, what do you want? I want my wife to stop fucking her boss, but since you're both unemployed now, I guess that problem solved itself. His jaw tightened. Marta says you're considering reconciliation. Marta says a lot of things, most of them lies. She loves you, you know. Whatever happened between us, she never stopped loving you. I laughed. Is that supposed to make me feel better? That she loved me while she was cheating on me? It wasn't supposed to happen. It just evolved. Evolved? Like you evolved into an embezzling piece of shit? Derek's mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw real fear in his eyes. I don't know what you think you know. I know about the offshore accounts. I know about the client money you've been moving around. I know about the falsified records and the forged signatures. You can't prove any of that. Can't I? I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo that Angela had sent me that morning. Derek meeting with a known money launderer at a restaurant in the Strip District. Funny how many interesting photos turn up when you know where to look. Derek stared at the phone screen, his face going pale. Where did you get this? Does it matter? The FBI is going to find it very interesting. The FBI? Oh, didn't Marta tell you? I filed a complaint with the federal authorities yesterday. Something about financial crimes and public corruption. They seemed very interested. It was a lie. Angela and I hadn't contacted the FBI yet, but Derek didn't know that. I watched him process the information, saw the exact moment when fear turned to panic. Listen, he said, his voice taking on a pleading tone. Maybe we can work something out. I've got resources. I can make this worth your while. You mean the $2 million you've got hidden in the Cayman Islands? Derek's face went white. How do you know about that? Same way I know about the account in Switzerland and the one in Costa Rica. You've been a busy boy, Derek. What do you want? Justice. Bullshit. Everyone wants something. Money, revenge, power. What's your price? I set down my wrench and looked him directly in the eyes. I want you to suffer the way I suffered. I want you to lose everything the way I lost everything. I want you to know what it feels like to have your life destroyed by someone you trusted. And then what? We're even? Then maybe I don't send the FBI everything I have on you. Derek was quiet for a long moment, calculating. What about Marta? What about her? She's going to be caught up in this too. If the FBI investigates, they'll find out about her involvement. Her involvement in what? She knew about the money, not all of it, but enough. She helped me move some funds around, sign some documents. If I go down, she goes down with me. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Marta wasn't just an innocent victim of Derek's manipulation. She was a willing participant in his crimes. You're lying. Am I? Ask her about the Morrison account deposits. Ask her about the invoices she signed for services that were never rendered. Ask her about the consulting fees that went straight into my personal accounts. Derek saw the shock on my face and pressed his advantage. She's not the innocent victim she's pretending to be, Ethan. She's been helping me cook the books for months. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand that we're all in this together now. If you destroy me, you destroy her too. And despite everything that's happened, I know you still love her. He was right, and we both knew it. Despite the betrayal, despite the lies, despite everything, I still loved Marta. And the thought of her in federal prison made me sick. What are you proposing? I disappear. Leave the country, never come back. Marta stays here, stays with you, and we all pretend this never happened. And your hidden money? I keep enough to start over somewhere else. The rest, we can work out some kind of arrangement. I pretended to consider it, while actually thinking about how Angela would react to this news. Marta's involvement in the embezzlement changed everything. I need time to think. How much time? A few days. Derek nodded. Don't take too long. I've got a window to get out of the country, but it won't stay open forever. After he left, I sat in my garage for a long time, trying to process what I'd learned. Marta wasn't just an unfaithful wife, she was a criminal. And if Angela and I proceeded with our plan, we'd be sending her to prison. I called Angela and told her about Derek's visit, about his claims regarding Marta's involvement. Son of a bitch, she said. He's trying to use your feelings for her against you. Is he telling the truth? Probably. I always suspected Marta was more involved than she let on. Derek's too smart to do everything himself. He needed help from someone inside the company. So, if we proceed, she goes to prison, probably for 5 to 10 years. I closed my eyes, thinking about Marta in an orange jumpsuit, thinking about our kids visiting their mother in federal prison. There has to be another way. There is, Angela said quietly. We let Derek go. We take whatever money we can get in the divorce settlement and walk away. And he gets away with everything? He gets away with the embezzlement, but he loses his wife, his job, his reputation. That's something. It's not enough. Then you need to decide what's more important. Revenge against Derek, or protecting Marta. I already knew what my decision would be. I'd known the moment Derek told me about Marta's involvement, but I needed Angela to think I was still considering all options. Give me until tomorrow. Ethan, one more day, then I'll decide. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about choices and consequences, about love and betrayal, about the man I used to be and the man I was becoming. By morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I met Marta at the coffee shop where we'd had our first date 20 years ago. She'd suggested it, probably hoping the nostalgia would work in her favor. She was right. Sitting across from her in the same booth where we'd fallen in love, I felt the weight of 2 decades pressing down on me. You look tired, she said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. I am tired. Tired of lies, tired of games, tired of pretending. Her face fell. Ethan, Derek came to see me yesterday. She went very still. What did he want? To make a deal. He offered to disappear if I backed off the investigation. What investigation? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos Angela had given me, the financial documents, the offshore accounts, the evidence of embezzlement. The one that's going to put him in federal prison for the next 20 years. Marta stared at the phone screen, her face cycling through shock, fear, and something that might have been relief. How long have you known? She asked quietly. About the affair? 2 weeks? About the embezzlement? About a week? About your involvement? Since yesterday. My involvement? Don't, Marta. Please don't lie to me anymore. I know about the Morrison account. I know about the fake invoices. I know about the consulting fees that went into Derek's personal accounts. She started crying, not the manipulative tears from before, but the broken sobs of someone whose world was collapsing. I didn't know what he was doing at first, she whispered. By the time I figured it out, I was already involved. He said if I tried to back out, he'd make sure I took the fall for everything. So you kept helping him. I was scared. And then we started the affair, and I thought maybe if I stayed close to him, I could control the situation. By sleeping with him? By making him think I was completely loyal. By making him trust me enough to tell me where the money was hidden. I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. You were planning to turn him in? I was planning to protect us, to make sure that when everything came out, we'd be safe. Us? You and me, our family, our life. She looked up at me with desperate eyes. I know how this looks. I know what you must think of me. But everything I did to protect what we have. You had an affair to protect our marriage? I had an affair to survive Derek's threats and to gather evidence against him, the feelings, the emotional part. That was a mistake, a terrible, stupid mistake. I wanted to believe her. God help me. I wanted to believe that there was some noble motive behind her betrayal, some way to make sense of the last 6 months. Show me, I said. What? Show me the evidence you gathered. Prove to me that this was all some elaborate plan to protect us. She hesitated, then pulled out her phone. For the next 20 minutes, she showed me photos of documents, recordings of conversations, copies of emails, all evidence of Derek's crimes. I've been building a case against him for months, she said. I was going to take it to the authorities after I figured out how to protect myself. Why didn't you just come to me? Because I knew how it would look. I knew you'd never believe that I was trying to help. So instead you let me think you were just cheating on me for fun? I thought I could handle it myself. I thought I could fix everything without you ever having to know. I studied her face, looking for tells, for signs that this was just another manipulation. But she looked sincere, broken, terrified, but sincere. Derek says if he goes down, you go down with him. I know. That's why I've been so careful to document everything. If I can prove I was coerced, if I can show that I was gathering evidence against him, you might avoid prison. I might. But Ethan, even if I do, even if I can prove my innocence, our marriage is still over, isn't it? Tomorrow, Angela said, sliding a thin black flash drive across the coffee table like it was a loaded gun. 8:30 sharp. Derek texted Marta this afternoon confirming the meet. He thinks he's buying Ethan's silence for $250,000 in cash and a promise to disappear. I felt Marta's fingers tighten around mine. She hadn't let go of my hand since we'd walked into Angela's apartment, as if she were afraid I'd evaporate if she loosened her grip. 250? I repeated. He's that liquid right now? Angela's laugh was short and bitter. He's desperate. The walls are closing in. His Cayman accounts are frozen pending investigation. He just doesn't know we're the ones who tipped the treasury yet. He thinks it's bad luck. He's scrambling to get whatever he can out before the rest collapses. That 250 is the last untainted cash he can lay hands on tonight. Marta's voice was quiet. He told me he was meeting a potential investor, someone who could get him a line of credit to ride this out. She swallowed. I didn't know it was me he was planning to use as the bait. Angela's eyes flicked to her, something almost like sympathy crossing her face before the mask slammed back down. You're not bait, Marta. You're the hook. And tomorrow night we reel him in. She opened her laptop and spun it toward us. A blueprint of the Omni William Penn's mezzanine glowed on the screen, red dots marking cameras, exits, sightlines. Here's how it plays, Angela began, clicking through slides like a general briefing troops. Marta, you'll arrive at 8:15. You'll wear the navy dress with the slit, the one he likes. He'll be watching for it. You'll tell him Ethan and I have been making noise, that we're threatening to go to the authorities unless he pays. You'll say you convinced me to take $250,000 to walk away. He'll be suspicious, but he'll want to believe you. Greed and ego, those are the two things you can always count on with Derek. Marta nodded, pale but steady. He'll bring the money in the black Louis Vuitton duffel. He thinks it looks street enough not to draw attention. Good. He'll want to meet in the Grant's bar on the mezzanine. Private booths, dim lighting, lots of background noise. Perfect for a payoff, terrible for him once the net drops. Angela clicked again. A grainy still from a hotel security camera filled the screen. Derek in a charcoal suit, smirking at someone off camera. FBI will have plainclothes agents at the bar at tables, one posing as the bartender. IRS Criminal Investigation Division will be in the lobby pretending to be guests. The prosecutor, Ann Liu, she's the one who nailed the Moretti family last year. She'll be in a suite upstairs monitoring the wire you'll be wearing, Marta. Marta's free hand went unconsciously to her throat. A wire? Won't he pat me down? Not if you distract him the way only you can. Angela's tone was clinical but not unkind. You know how he gets when you wear that dress. He'll be too busy trying to get his hands on you to worry about what's under it. The transmitter's thinner than a credit card. We'll tape it between your shoulder blades. He'll never feel it. I felt something sour rise in my throat. The idea of Derek pawing at my wife, even knowing it was an act, made me want to drive across town and put my fist through his face right then and there. Marta must have felt the tension in my hand because she squeezed once, grounding me. What's my role? I asked, forcing my voice level. Angela's gaze shifted to me, measuring. You're the ghost. You'll be in the parking garage, level 3, in the black Suburban with the tinted windows, engine running. If everything goes according to plan, you won't have to move. But if Derek smells the trap and tries to run, you block the ramp. FBI wants him alive and talking, but they won't cry if he arrives with a few bruises. She paused, letting that sink in. There's one more thing, she said quietly. Derek's paranoid. He's been carrying lately. Shoulder holster Glock 19. If he pulls it, he won't. Marta cut in fiercely. I'll keep his hands where I can see them. I know how to handle him. Angela studied her for a long moment, then nodded. I believe you. The room went quiet except for the low hum of the laptop fan. Outside, a siren Dopplered down Liberty Avenue and faded. I looked at the two women who, in their own separate ways, had every reason to want Derek Castellano erased from the earth. Angela, whose sister had overdosed on product Derek's operation pushed. Marta, who'd spent years being slowly hollowed out by a man who treated love like a leverage play. And me, 20 years of my life invested in a lie I was only now seeing clearly. I cleared my throat. After tomorrow, when he's in custody, what happens to the rest of the money? The offshore accounts? Angela closed the laptop with a soft snap. That's where it gets beautiful. The Cayman accounts are in Marta's name, technically. Derek was clever. He put them under her maiden name with forged signatures, so if anyone ever came sniffing, it would look like she was the mastermind. Classic rat-line thinking. But we have the paper trail showing coercion, the threats he made on record, the times he forced her to sign. With her testimony, and yours, Ethan, those accounts get seized under civil forfeiture. Every dime goes to victims first. What's left? She smiled, and for the first time it reached her eyes. Gets released to the innocent spouse who was coerced into the scheme, which is Marta. Conservatively, after the victims are paid, we're still talking 1.4, maybe 1.6 million. Clean. Marta made a small sound, half laugh, half sob. We could send the kids to college. We could breathe. More than that, I said quietly. We could disappear, like we talked about. New names, a little house somewhere with actual seasons. Somewhere Derek's reach can't find us even if he ever gets out. Angela stood, stretching like a cat who'd just finished a very satisfying meal. You two should go home. Get some rest. Tomorrow's a big day. At the door, she caught Marta's shoulder, awkward but genuine. You're doing the right thing. For your kids. For every life he's ruined. Marta met her eyes. I know. In the elevator down, Marta leaned against me, her head on my chest. I could feel her heart racing. Are you scared? I asked. Terrified, she whispered. But not of Derek. I'm scared you'll never be able to look at me again without seeing what I let him turn me into. I stopped the elevator between floors, cupped her face in my hands. Listen to me. You survived a monster by doing whatever you had to do to keep our children safe. There is nothing he could have forced you to do that would make me love you less. We're getting out the other side of this together. You hear me? Her eyes searched mine, shimmering. Then she nodded, once. The elevator lurched back into motion. Back at the house, we moved like ghosts. The kids were at my sister's for the week, a little pre-Christmas vacation, we'd told them. The silence was enormous. We didn't sleep. We sat on the couch, where we'd watched 1,000 movies, where we'd opened Christmas presents, where we'd made love on lazy Sunday mornings while the kids watched cartoons in the other room. Marta curled into me, her head on my lap, and I stroked her hair until the sky outside went from black to bruised violet to pale gold. At 7 a.m., we showered. Separately, each lost in our own rituals of preparation. I watched her button the navy dress, the one that hugged every curve Derek had once claimed as his trophy. She caught me looking in the mirror, It's just fabric, she said softly. No, I answered. It's armor. At 8:07 p.m. the next evening, I sat in the Suburban on level 3 of the garage, engine idling, hands flexing on the wheel. My phone buzzed. Angela, she's in. He just hugged her. Wires hot. Another buzz, 30 seconds later. He's bragging. Says after tonight he's done with both of you forever. Then, at 8:34, money's on the table. Agents moving. I closed my eyes, counted heartbeats. 8:37. FBI, hands in the air. Even 3 floors up and through concrete, I heard the shouts, muffled but unmistakable. A single gunshot, sharp, flat, terrifying, then nothing but yelling. My phone exploded with texts. Angela. He fired at the bartender. Grazed. Marta's okay. They have him. Angela. She was incredible. Angela. Come down, it's over. I don't remember driving the ramp or finding the lobby. I only remember pushing through the revolving door and seeing Marta standing in the middle of the chaos. Cuffs on Derek behind her, agents everywhere, her dress torn at the shoulder, a smear of someone else's blood on her cheek, eyes wild until they found mine. She ran to me. I caught her. She was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. It's over, she kept saying, like a prayer. It's over, it's over, it's over. I held her while the hotel lights flashed red and blue across her face, while Derek screamed obscenities from the back of a federal SUV, while cameras clicked and reporters shouted questions no one answered. Later, hours later, statements and coffee and fluorescent rooms, Angela found us in a hallway that smelled of bleach and burnt coffee. She handed Marta a thick envelope. Prosecutor says your cooperation was exemplary. They're recommending immediate release of the frozen assets pending formal forfeiture reversal. This is the paperwork to start the process. You'll have the money within 30 days. Marta stared at the envelope like it might bite her. Angela's voice softened. There's a flight to Lisbon leaving at 6:45 tomorrow evening. 2 tickets, first class, paid in cash under the new names I arranged. After that, a connection to a little town on the Algarve no one's ever heard of. Sun, ocean, no extradition worries for 20 years even if someone tries. She looked at me. You in? I took Marta's hand, felt her fingers lace through mine like they had the first time, 22 years ago at a college party neither of us had wanted to attend. Yeah, I said. We're in. Angela smiled, the real one this time, tired and triumphant. Then go home, pack light, burn whatever you don't take. We did. 2 weeks later, I stood on a terrace in southern Portugal, watching the Atlantic hurl itself at gold cliffs, while Marta laughed, actually laughed, as our kids chased waves they'd never seen before. Derek got 47 years. The money came through, every penny accounted for and clean, and somewhere in the salt wind, I heard the last chain snap. Marta slipped her arms around me from behind, chin on my shoulder. What now? She whispered. I turned, kissed her slow and certain, tasting salt and forgiveness and 20 years of almost. Now, I said, we figure out the rest. The Omni William Penn's Grand Ballroom was hosting a charity gala that night, some cause for underprivileged children that Pittsburgh's elite used to assuage their guilt while networking and showing off their wealth. Derek had chosen the location perfectly. What better place to conduct illegal business than surrounded by the city's most respectable citizens? I sat at the hotel bar nursing a whiskey, watching the entrance through the mirror behind the bottles. Angela was positioned across the lobby, pretending to read a magazine. Federal agents were scattered throughout the hotel, invisible but ready. Marta had been wearing a wire when she called Derek that morning, telling him that I was willing to make a deal. $1 million in exchange for my silence and all the evidence I'd gathered. Derek had agreed immediately, too immediately, which made me nervous. He's here, Angela's voice came through my earpiece. I turned to see Derek entering the hotel, looking every inch the successful businessman despite his recent troubles. He wore a tailored suit, carried an expensive briefcase, and moved with the confidence of a man who believed he was about to solve all his problems. "Marta's in position," the FBI agent coordinating the operations said through my earpiece. "She's at table 12 in the ballroom." I finished my drink and made my way toward the ballroom, my heart pounding. After weeks of planning, it all came down to the next hour. The ballroom was elegant and crowded, filled with Pittsburgh's social elite pretending to care about charity while actually caring about being seen. I spotted Marta immediately. She was sitting alone at a table near the back, looking nervous but determined. Derek approached her table with the confidence of a predator who thought he was about to claim his prey. I couldn't hear their conversation from my position across the room, but I could see their body language. Derek leaning in close, Marta nodding, both of them speaking in hushed tones. "He's showing her something," Angela's voice said in my ear. "Looks like bank documents." Derek pulled out his phone and showed Marta the screen, probably proof of the money transfer he was promising. Marta nodded and said something that made Derek smile. "She's giving him the signal," the FBI coordinator said. "All units, prepare to move." But something was wrong. Derek wasn't acting like a man about to be arrested. He was acting like a man who was in complete control of the situation. "Wait," I said into my microphone. "Something's not right." Derek stood up from the table and walked toward the ballroom's exit, but not the main exit where we'd expected him to go. He was heading for a service door near the kitchen. "He's running," Angela said. "All units, suspect is mobile." But Derek wasn't running. He was walking calmly, like a man who knew exactly where he was going, and Marta was following him. "What the hell?" I stood up, abandoning any pretense of cover. Through my earpiece, I heard chaos as the FBI agents tried to reposition, tried to figure out what was happening. Derek and Marta had disappeared through the service door. I ran after them, pushing through the crowded ballroom, ignoring the surprised looks from the charity gala attendees. The service door led to a corridor that connected to the hotel's loading dock. "Ethan, where are you?" Angela's voice was sharp with concern. "Following them. Something's wrong. This isn't how it was supposed to happen." I reached the loading dock just in time to see Derek and Marta getting into a black sedan. Not Derek's BMW, a different car entirely, with tinted windows and a driver I didn't recognize. "They're leaving together," I said into my microphone. "Derek and Marta are leaving together." The sedan pulled away from the loading dock and disappeared into Pittsburgh traffic. I stood there in the cold night air, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. Angela appeared beside me, breathing hard from running. "What the hell just happened?" I think," I said slowly, "we just got played." Back in Angela's apartment an hour later, the FBI coordinator, a stern woman named Agent Martinez, was not happy. "Your wife never showed up for her briefing this afternoon," she said. "We assumed she was nervous, but now it looks like she warned Derek," Angela finished. I sat on Angela's couch, still trying to make sense of what had happened. She had evidence against him. She showed me documents, recordings, all of which could have been fabricated, Agent Martinez said. "Mr. Matthews, I think you need to consider the possibility that your wife has been playing you from the beginning. That's impossible. She was as surprised as anyone when they got fired. Was she? Or was that just another performance?" Angela pulled out her laptop and showed me something that made my blood run cold. Security footage from the Meridian building, time-stamped from 3 days before Derek and Marta were fired. In the video, Marta was in Derek's office, but she wasn't kissing him. She was showing him documents, the same documents she'd later shown me as evidence of her investigation. "She wasn't investigating Derek," Angela said quietly. "She was helping him plan his escape." I watched the video again, seeing details I'd missed the first time. The way Marta and Derek worked together, the way they shared information, the way they looked like partners rather than reluctant conspirators. "The affair was real," I said, more to myself than to anyone else. The affair was a cover, Agent Martinez corrected. It gave them a reason to spend time together, to meet privately, to coordinate their activities, and it gave your wife a way to manipulate your emotions when the time came. She played me. She played all of us, Angela said bitterly. While we thought we were setting a trap for Derek, they were setting a trap for us. My phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. By the time you read this, we'll be somewhere you can't find us. The money you thought you were going to steal, we're taking it with us. Thanks for helping us identify all the federal agents. M&D. I showed the message to Angela and Agent Martinez. The FBI coordinator swore creatively. They used us to flush out the investigation, she said. Now they know exactly who was watching them and how much we knew. Can you track them? We're trying. But if they planned this as carefully as it appears, they probably have new identities waiting, offshore transportation, the whole package. I stood up and walked to Angela's window, looking out at the Pittsburgh skyline. Somewhere out there, my wife and her lover were laughing about how they'd fooled everyone. How they'd fooled me. There's something else, Angela said quietly. Something I didn't tell you before. I turned around. What? The reason Derek fired me 2 years ago? It wasn't because I discovered his embezzlement. It was because I discovered that he was planning to run away with someone, a woman from inside the company. Marta. I never could prove it was her. But I suspected. And when the affair became obvious, I thought it was a new development. I never considered that it might be 2 years old. 2 years. I felt sick. She's been planning this for 2 years. Planning to steal Derek's money, frame him for embezzlement, and disappear with a new identity, Agent Martinez said. Your wife is a lot smarter than any of us gave her credit for. And a lot more ruthless, Angela added. I thought about the last few weeks, Marta's tears, her pleas for reconciliation, her apparent cooperation with our plan, all of it calculated, all of it designed to make me trust her, to make me reveal our strategy, to make me help her identify the threats to their escape plan. She knew about you from the beginning, I said to Angela. She knew you were the one feeding me information. Probably. Which means she's known about our partnership all along. And she used it against us. My phone rang. Marta. I looked at Agent Martinez, who nodded and gestured for me to answer. Hello, Marta. Hello, Ethan. Her voice was different now, colder, more confident. I suppose you've figured it out by now. Some of it. Why don't you fill in the blanks? Derek and I have been together for 2 years. The embezzlement, the offshore accounts, the escape plan, all of it was our idea from the beginning. And the reconciliation, the tears, the evidence you showed me, all real, in a way. I really was gathering evidence against Derek, evidence that would implicate him while clearing me. The plan was for him to take the fall while I disappeared with the money. But something changed. You changed things. When you started digging, when you brought Angela into it, we realized we were both in danger, so we decided to disappear together. After using me to identify all the federal agents. After using you to identify the threats, yes. You were very helpful, Ethan. Thank you. Where are you? Somewhere safe. Somewhere you'll never find us. The FBI will track you down. Will they? We've been planning this for 2 years. New identities, offshore accounts, a very careful trail that leads nowhere. I don't think they'll have much luck. I closed my eyes, thinking about 18 years of marriage, 2 children, a life built on what I'd thought was love and trust. Did you ever love me? Once, a long time ago. But people change, Ethan. People grow apart. People want different things. And you wanted Derek's money. I wanted a life that was bigger than Pittsburgh, bigger than your garage, bigger than the suburban dream we built together. Derek offered me that life. And our kids? We'll be fine. They're adults now. They don't need their mother anymore. They'll need their mother not to be a federal fugitive. They'll never know. As far as everyone's concerned, Marta Matthews died in a car accident next week. The woman I'm becoming has never heard of Pittsburgh. The line went quiet for a moment. Then Marta spoke again, and for just a second, she sounded like the woman I'd married. I'm sorry, Ethan. I really am. You deserved better than this. Yes, I did. Goodbye. The line went dead. I looked at Angela and Agent Martinez, both of whom had been listening to every word. Well, I said, that's that. We'll keep looking for them, Agent Martinez said. But your wife is right. If they've been planning this for 2 years, they probably have a pretty good head start. After the FBI agent left, Angela and I sat in her apartment, drinking whiskey and contemplating the wreckage of our revenge plot. I'm sorry, she said. This is my fault. I should have seen through her act. We all should have. She played us perfectly. What will you do now? I thought about it. My wife was gone. Really gone. Not just physically, but legally dead within a week if her plan worked. My marriage was over. My life as I'd known it was finished. Start over, I guess. Figure out what comes next. The garage. I'll probably sell it. Too many memories. Angela nodded. For what it's worth, you're better off without her. Am I? Or am I just a fool who got exactly what he deserved? You're a good man who trusted the wrong person. That's not a character flaw, Ethan. That's just bad luck. I finished my whiskey and stood to leave. What about you? What's next for Angela Winters? I don't know. Derek's gone, so my revenge is incomplete. But Marta's gone too, and she was just as guilty. Maybe that's enough. Maybe. I walked to the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, I'm glad I met you, even if it didn't work out the way we planned. Me too. I left Angela's apartment and drove through the empty Pittsburgh streets, thinking about choices and consequences, about love and betrayal, about the difference between justice and revenge. By the time I reached my house, my empty house, I'd made a decision about what came next. The for sale sign in front of my house had a sold sticker across it. I was loading the last of my belongings into a U-Haul truck when my daughter Amelia pulled into the driveway. You sure about this, Dad? She asked, getting out of her car. I'm sure. Colorado's pretty far from everything you know. That's the point. She helped me load a box of tools into the truck. Any word from Mom? No. And there won't be. The official story was that Marta had died in a car accident while driving to visit her sister in Ohio. There had been a funeral, a burial, the whole elaborate fiction. Only a few people knew the truth. Me, Angela, the FBI, and probably Derek's wife Sandra, who'd received her own devastating revelation about her husband's disappearance. I still can't believe she's gone, Amelia said. She's been gone for a long time. We just didn't know it. My son Ross arrived as we were finishing with the truck. He'd taken his mother's death hard, but he was young and resilient. He'd recover. You don't have to move, Dad, he said. We could help you through this. I know, but I need a fresh start. Somewhere without memories. What about the garage? Sold it to Frank. He'll take good care of it. We stood in the driveway for a few minutes, looking at the house where we'd all lived together as a family. It seemed smaller now, somehow diminished by everything that had happened. Will you stay in touch? Amelia asked. Of course. You're my kids. That doesn't change just because I'm moving. I hugged them both, promised to call when I reached Denver, and climbed into the U-Haul. As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of them in my rearview mirror, standing together in front of the house where their childhood had ended. The drive to Colorado took 2 days. I stopped at a motel in Kansas and called Angela to let her know I was leaving. Any regrets? She asked. About leaving? No, about everything else, every day? She fooled all of us, Ethan. Don't blame yourself. I don't. But I don't forgive myself either. Maybe that's healthy. Maybe. I hung up and stared out the motel window at the endless Kansas plains. Somewhere out there, Marta and Derek were living their new lives with their stolen money. They'd won. They'd gotten everything they wanted and left nothing but wreckage behind. But I was still alive, still breathing, still capable of building something new from the ashes of what they'd destroyed. In Denver, I bought a small house in the mountains and opened a new garage specializing in classic car restoration. The work was satisfying in a way that my old business had never been, bringing beautiful things back to life instead of just keeping broken things running. I never remarried, never even seriously dated. Some betrayals cut too deep to heal completely, and I'd learned that I was better off alone than with someone I couldn't trust. 6 months after I moved to Colorado, I got a call from Agent Martinez. They'd found Derek and Marta. "Where?" I asked. "Costa Rica, living under assumed names in a beach house outside San Jose." "Are you extraditing them?" "We're trying, but Costa Rica doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States for financial crimes. They might never come back." "So they got away with it." "For now. But money like that draws attention. Sooner or later, someone's going to notice 2 Americans living like millionaires in a country where the average income is $15,000 a year. And then? And then we'll see how much Derek and Marta really trust each other when the pressure's on." I hung up and went back to work on a 1967 Mustang that a customer had brought in. The engine was seized, the body was rusted, the interior was destroyed. But underneath all the damage, it was still a beautiful car. Just like underneath all my damage, I was still a man capable of building something worthwhile. That night, I sat on my porch looking at the Colorado mountains and thinking about justice and revenge, about love and betrayal, about the difference between getting what you want and getting what you deserve. Marta and Derek had gotten what they wanted, but they'd also gotten each other, 2 people who'd proven they were willing to betray anyone for money. How long before they betrayed each other? I raised my beer in a toast to the mountain air. Here's to getting what you deserve. Somewhere in Costa Rica, my ex-wife was living her dream life with her stolen money and her criminal lover. But she was also living with the constant fear of discovery, the constant knowledge that her paradise was built on lies and theft, the constant awareness that the man she'd chosen over me was exactly the kind of person who would betray her if it served his interests. Maybe that was justice enough. Maybe that was revenge enough. Maybe that was exactly what they both deserved.